So this weekend was the annual Half Price Books clearance sale in Dayton, Ohio at Wright State University. Over there in the Nutter Center, boxes and boxes of comics, 50 cents a piece, books for $2 or less, and I'm going to show you some of my finds. This video is specifically going to be some of my book finds that are comics adjacent, but I wanted to start with 3 just floppy comics because I wanted to point out that if you know what you're looking for and you're okay with digging into boxes, you can sometimes come out with some gems that people will be more interested in than some of the other stuff that I'll show in later videos. So these first 3 books, I want to be clear, probably will end up paying for the rest of the stuff that I bought. The first one is Uncanny X-Men 256. This was a 90s X-Men book. Claremont was still writing. Jim Lee was still on art. And this is the first appearance of Psylocke. Psylocke's a weird character in that she has like 2 or 3 official first appearances. But this is her first appearance as she looked for the 90s X-Men that were so popular. So this is probably like a $10, $15 book. It's in pretty good condition. I also got a copy of DC Comics Presents number 27. This is another first appearance. This is the first appearance of Mongul, a Superman villain of some note. Probably best known from the Superman Annual for the Man Who Has Everything. Written by Alan Moore. Art with Dave Gibbons. But this is his first appearance. Again, this is probably another $15 book. I also found an issue of The Question that I've been looking for, written by Denny O'Neil, art by Dennis Cohen. And the cool thing about this book is The Question was a character that was published by Charlton Comics. So when Alan Moore was gearing up to write Watchmen, I think the original pitch was that he was going to use those Charlton characters as characters. And most of the Watchmen characters are kind of like analogous to other Charlton superheroes like Dr. Manhattan and Captain Atom. So The Question is definitely the character that inspired Rorschach, the vigilante from Watchmen. Now, this book, weirdly enough, has a Rorschach appearance. The Question is on a flight. He's reading the collected Watchmen trade. He falls asleep and he starts thinking about, I guess, Rorschach. For a long time, this was one of the only appearances of a Watchmen character outside of those Watchmen books. I looked this up. This is like a $20, $30 book to the right person, and this is in nice shape. So, again, those 3 books, while not all my jam, will end up paying for the rest of the stuff you'll see. So let's look at some of the other stuff. I got a copy of 100 Demons by Lynda Barry. I am a huge Lynda Barry fan, but I've never read 100 Demons. I've read mainly Ernie Pook's comic, and this book has like some awesome design sense to it. Beautifully painted, stories from Barry's childhood and young adulthood. And one of the things I have always admired about her is how unsparing she is about herself. I think that's like a very redemptive thing for most autobiographical cartoonists. I also think she has one of the best avatars for her comics. I love the way she draws herself in these. So I'm very, very excited to get that. I will definitely be reading that probably tonight. Top of the pile. I also found a hardcover Book of the Month edition of Upfront with Bill Malden. Bill Malden, if you don't know him, is an amazing cartoonist. He was the cartoonist for Stars and Stripes during World War II. So this was the comic that appeared in the newspaper that if you were in the Army, if you were in the Navy, if you were in the, like, you read Stars and Stripes. And his artwork is very ink heavy and very down to earth. His characters, Willie and Joe, are just sort of like in the mud, making things happen. It's pretty downbeat, but in a funny way. And I guess this comic was famously angering some higher-ups in the Army ranks Like, there's a story that General Patton wanted it taken out of Stars and Stripes magazine. There was a story that Dwight Eisenhower loved it and said that it was a great way to sort of mirror the way that most GIs were feeling. He's a great cartoonist. I love his stuff. I think he's a little bit unsung. Bill Malden. Cool to find that. I got a collection of Pogo. This is a weird collection. This is got a bunch of stuff in it, though. I think Pogo fans were a little more on it about like being up front with the fandom community. So there's a lot of stuff. There's Walt Kelly himself, one of the chief satirists of the 50s. Pogo definitely is a seminal comic work. I love this picture of Kelly about to fly on Pan Am, and he drew them a picture of Pogo Possum. There are some reprints in here. They look like they're mainly from the late 40s. But then just like a lot of other weird stuff. Here's Simple J Malarkey, who's probably one of the more famous runs at satire, with Kelly taking a shot at Joe McCarthy. So again, cool stuff. Definitely something cool to poke around with. I pick up Omni Comics #1. Omni Comics, this is a high gloss magazine that has comics in it. Published by Bob Guccione, who famously published Penthouse magazine. It definitely has, I can tell you, that Penthouse feel as far as paper stock and just like fonts and stuff. Like you could tell it sort of came from this, like the title page. You can definitely tell they come from the same editors and stuff. Penthouse, as far as the publisher, has been kind of good to comics over the years. They've published a bunch of stuff under like Penthouse Comics, or just in like their main thing. It still has the subscription tag. I don't think that would go anywhere. Again, it's the first issue. Definitely worth checking out. Conan Saga. This is a magazine, Conan the Barbarian stories. John Buscema, Roy Thomas. These are just reprints, but they're in black and white, and they're a little bigger than you would get in a regular comic. So I bought it, 50 cents. There's No Business. This is I don't know what this is. It's a Charles Bukowski short story published by Black Sparrow Press in 1990 with Crumb illustrations in it. I'm a fan of both those gentlemen. Maybe less so as the years march on, but cool find. Alright, and then finally for this video, I've got Dreams of the Rarebit Fiend by Winsor McCay. Winsor McCay, famous for Little Nemo and Slumberland. The Rarebit Fiend comics basically add up to some crazy stuff happening, and then somebody waking up and being like, wow, I wish I hadn't eaten that before bed. So this is a Dover reprint. It's cool to find that. This video was supposed to be the shortest of the videos, and it went on for almost 9 minutes. So let's see where I get in the next one.